Night, along a roadway in southern Mexico, a seemingly endless stream of people making their way on foot towards the United States. Men, women, and children walking through pouring rain and sweltering heat. They come from across Latin America, places like Venezuela, Cuba, and Colombia, all with the same goal, immigration to the U.S.
We left Colombia because of the homophobia. We both got physically and verbally attacked. We had to cross the Darien jungle and trails through many xenophobic countries.
It's the latest and one of the largest migrant caravans to make the nearly 2,000-mile trek north through Mexico. The group's journey began Monday in the city of Tapachula. Organizers claim there are nearly 15,000 migrants in the caravan, but authorities in Mexico estimate it's closer to 5,000. Robinson Reyes is making the desperate journey and says the current policy, in which migrants process their paperwork in southern Mexico rather than at the U.S. border, is not working quickly enough.
We've been here for almost a month, and they haven't solved anything regarding the humanitarian visa. We want a future for our families. We are not violent. We just want a better future for our families.
The caravan setting off on the very same day that world leaders from across the hemisphere meet in Los Angeles at the Summit of the Americas. It's the first time the U.S. has hosted the Triennial Conference since it began in Miami in 1994. But this year's summit kicking off with controversy over a number of exclusions. The United States refusing to invite leaders from Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua.
The president's principal position is that we do not believe that dictators should be invited.
Prompting leaders like the president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, to skip the conference and send a representative instead.
No puede haber cumbre de las Américas si no participan todos los países del continente americano.
Now the presidents of Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala following suit, announcing they too would not attend the summit.
Señor presidente de la República, el doctor Alejandro Yamatei, no asistirá a la cumbre de las Américas.
The absence of the countries from which many of the migrants originate threatening to derail the goals of the summit. And while some leaders are opting not to attend, the White House is moving forward with the summit, hoping to continue with the planned agenda, focusing on migration, COVID, and economics. President Joe Biden expected to arrive in Los Angeles on Wednesday.
Grace and peace, everyone. This is Pastor William Green coming to you again with a message from God's Word. The topic I would like to address is the illegal immigration crisis in America. And many will say that this is a humanitarian crisis, but it's really not. For even the Bible forbids invasion of a people into another country. And what this really is, this is an invasion. No matter how you want to cut it, it is an invasion. And the Bible clearly speaks against illegal immigration. And to point that out and to explain that, we look again to the Word of God. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 2, verse 27, God gave Moses and the children of Israel instructions as how they were to complete their journey into the promised land. And looking at verse 27, it reads thus: "Let me pass through thy land. I will go along by the highway. I will neither turn unto the right hand nor to the left. Thou shalt sell me meat for money, that I may eat, and give me water for money, that I may drink. Only I will pass on through on my feet. As the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, and the Moabites, which dwelt in Ar, did unto me, until I pass over Jordan into the land which the Lord our God gave us. So notice what Moses was instructed by God. As you pass through the land, don't bring any hardship on the people of that land. But notice, he said, whatever meat you eat, you pay for it. Whatever water you drink, you pay for it. But you go through and not invade. In fact, Moses asked permission. Moses and the children of Israel didn't just show up in the land of the Moabites and just pass through and made demands, as illegals are doing right now in this country. And specifically, listen to what God told Moses as to how to address the Moabites as he approached their line. And it's in chapter 2 again, verse 4. Verse 4, and command thou the people, saying, ye are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Seir, and they shall be afraid of you. Take ye good heed unto yourselves, therefore. Meddle not with them. You see what God is saying? Show the people respect and do not cause confusion in their land. Meddle not with them. For I will not give you of their land, no, not so much as a foot breadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. Ye shall buy meat of them for money, that ye may eat, and ye shall also buy water of them for money, that ye may drink. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all the works of thy hand. He knoweth thy walking through this great wilderness. So look at the biblical principle. When another nation comes into another area, another land, you just don't come and take what you want. You just don't come and make demands. But again, the Lord said, you buy what you eat. You buy what you drink. And you keep it moving. You keep it moving. So this whole thing that we're experiencing now with illegal immigration, it is ungodly. And yes, I will dare say it's satanic. And the Bible gives a precedent. You do not disrupt another nation's economy. And what we are seeing now, right now, we're seeing the results of illegal immigration. Take a look at these videos.
Right now at 5:30, a march by undocumented workers calling for more unemployment benefits shuts down the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. Good evening once again. I'm Maurice Dubois.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Christine Johnson. The workers are not eligible for federal relief, and the New York State funding program is out of money.
CBS 2's Andrea Klein-Thomas has more on their demands.
Tuesday morning, protesters temporarily shut down lanes of the Manhattan and Brooklyn bridges to demand more pandemic relief.
Immigrant workers lost everything during the pandemic, and those who receive these funds are able to get back on their feet. That's why we're here, because there are thousands upon thousands of more who did not receive those funds.
Last year, New York State created an excluded workers fund, $2.1 billion in unemployment benefits for undocumented workers, the largest of its kind in the country. Nearly all of the 130,000 recipients received the maximum benefit of $15,600. But now the money has run out.
Cuando ya aplicamos se acabó el cupo.
I finally applied, the fund had closed already.
Through a translator, Xochitl Gomez explains she's a house cleaner whose employment was impacted by the pandemic and is among the thousands who did not receive payments.
Fue tan difícil como tener que irme a formarme a las...
It was so difficult that I had to go to the food lines and the food pantries.
And workers are not eligible for unemployment benefits and other government-related relief. That's why advocates are demanding an additional $3 billion to replenish the excluded workers fund.
There is enough funding. There was a windfall from the federal government for relief in New York State, and so we know that there is revenue.
Money protesters say is necessary to recover and address their most basic needs.
In a statement, Governor Hochul's office said the executive budget includes an additional $2 billion for pandemic recovery initiatives. And with input from lawmakers and community leaders, they'll decide the best way to allocate it. Andrea Klein-Thomas, CBS 2 News.
And in addition to the Excluded Workers Fund, advocates are also supporting separate proposals, legislation to make unemployment benefits permanent for undocumented workers.
As more migrants arrive in New York City, the battle over where to house them shows no signs of slowing down.
More parents are speaking out about the decision to house some of the asylum seekers at city schools. Lizette Nunez has more from Williamsburg. People are out there protesting already?
Yes, they are. It's day 2, and parents, grandparents, students, they are back out it. They were here around 7:45 this morning. Right now, we do have a second camera following those parents as they circle the property. I did speak to one mother who told me she picked up her daughter early yesterday because she did not feel comfortable having her stay inside the classroom, and she doesn't plan on sending her back to school today. This is all coming as we are also learning this morning that currently there are 5 asylum seekers staying inside the gymnasium at PS 17.
They got to think about the safety of the children and also the immigrants that's coming here, the safety of them too.
An emergency meeting was held at PS 172 in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, over the city's plan to house migrants inside school gymnasiums.
Give them your home, Mayor Adams. Open Gracie Mansion, you'll give them your home.
Parents in Williamsburg also raising concerns over safety. The gymnasium at PS 17 and MS 577 is off limits to students, as 72 cots have been set up inside the gym for migrants. Mayor Adams says the city is looking at using 20 standalone gymnasiums as temporary shelters, as more asylum seekers are expected.
We could potentially get 15 bus loads over the weekend. 4,200 last week.
Over in Yonkers, migrants arrived at the Ramada Inn, including this family who fled from Venezuela. Madalene Rodriguez arrived with her husband and 2 little girls. They made the long and treacherous trip through Colombia and Mexico. Rodriguez says they were detained in Texas for days. They eventually got bus tickets from a church and arrived in New York on Sunday. Mayor Spano is asking residents to be welcoming, as the city could receive as many as 100 families. Yonkers leaders are looking at what schools have space available, as the state mandates any child between the age of 6 to 16 to have a free education.
Calling the governor to work to come up with a solution.
Meanwhile, in Orange County, a state Supreme Court has ruled that New York City can no longer send migrants there. However, the 186 asylum seekers that are already at 2 hotels in Newburgh are allowed to stay.
And back out here live in Williamsburg, once again, that rally is still underway. This is the second day that parents, children, and grandparents have been outside. They continue to circle the school property, just making their voices heard. You could probably hear them right now. Some of those students saying, we want our gym back. Right now, they cannot use it because it is currently housing 5 asylum seekers. So we've been speaking to parents the last 2 days. They tell me they will continue to be out here as long as they need to, because they just want their voices to be heard. We're live in Williamsburg. Roseanne and Bianca will send things back inside.
Yeah, parents still not happy about this. We'll continue that conversation. Lisette, thanks so much for that.
In Denver, when it comes to how the city is going to address migrants that arrive here in the city.
Since December, the city has sheltered more than 6,000 migrants and spent more than $12 million on that effort. Our Jasmine Arenas is live tonight in Denver. And Jasmine, we've learned the city will now follow federal guidance when it comes to sheltering new migrants.
Good evening, Michael. After May 8th, now migrants that arrive in the city will not be provided with shelter or even financial help from the city. And this comes as disheartening news to some nonprofit organizations that have worked with these migrants by providing them with shelter and resources. They say May 8th is just around the corner. It's not enough time.
I'm disappointed that there wasn't even a conversation.
With tears in her eyes, the founder of Vive Wellness tells us she thinks this change will cause trouble for many migrant families.
I mean, if that's a decision that what's December going to be looking like now, then let us work together with organizations, the community that cares about this, and come up with a plan.
Since December, Yoli Casas and her team have partnered up with nonprofits like Papagayo, helping enroll migrant children in DPS schools and creating a safe space for them, while also helping house 600 migrants like Zulema Salas, who arrived to the U.S. with her 3 children without being processed, seeking asylum. I asked for parole in Mexico, but we were there for months, and some men tried to kidnap my daughter, and so we escaped and we came to the U.S. For migrants with similar situations arriving in May, the federal rule change now means the city will not shelter people who have not encountered U.S. Department of Homeland Security officers. It is going to be difficult. I remember what we went through, and it was very hard. For Casas, she's afraid this means children and families will eventually end up on the streets.
To actually welcome the families and say, you get housing. Sorry, you don't have the documents, you're in the street, or figure it out. That's not who we are. That's not who Denver is.
Again, this is for migrants who do not go through the process or even encounter DHS. Now, a policy shift by the Biden administration to prohibit people from Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela, and Cuba from applying for asylum if they cross into the U.S. unlawfully could also limit the number of people who will be able to get into Denver. As of Thursday, 41 people arrived in Denver. In Denver, Jasmine Arenas covering Colorado First.
Jasmine, thank you.
Here in the Watson Hotel with migrants who are being forced out of their shelters.
Asylum seekers and activists spilling onto the street in Midtown as they protested the relocation of migrants from the Watson Hotel to the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal in Red Hook. This weekend, the city began moving single men to the 1,000-bed facility in Brooklyn. The move met with controversy Sunday night. Members of the NYPD standing by as tension flared.
This is the third time that Adams tries to create a detention center for migrants. The first one was at Orchard. The second one was at Randall's, and the third one right now is at Redwood.
Some migrants refusing to board the bus to Brooklyn, saying they are tired of the constant moving and chanting they want a permanent home. In a statement, the mayor's office says the facilities at Brooklyn Cruise Terminal will provide the same services as every other humanitarian relief center in the city, and the scheduled relocations to Brooklyn Cruise Terminal this weekend took place as planned. We remain in serious need of support from both our state and federal governments. This comes as the city has received more than 42,000 asylum seekers since last spring.
So as you can see, these illegal aliens are disrupting the American economy. They're bringing chaos to America. And as you also saw, during the pandemic, or I rather say the plandemic, while you, the American citizen, you received a $1,400 stimulus check, illegal aliens working in New York or living in New York, they receive a payment of $15,000. Now imagine that. And this was tax-free money. This is your tax dollars being given to people who have no justification or no right to be here. And yet, as you see, they come here with this attitude of entitlement. But the question has to be asked, how do we get here in the first place? Let's go to the source of this. Watch this.
What I plan on doing as President of the United States. The only thing I'm not doing is I'm not engaging in retribution. I am not deciding that the way to win is to go after hate with hate. We have to convince people. We have to move them. And one of the overwhelming reasons I won, by the way, is because we took on racism in suburbia. White women overwhelmingly voted with me, and black women were the two places where it was overwhelming because we spoke to those concerns. And Vanita, you know what I'm talking about. You and I have talked before. I don't carry around a stamp on my head saying progressive and I'm AOC, but I have more of a record of getting things done in the United States Congress than anybody you know. Anybody you know of getting things accomplished. And that sounds so self-serving. I know that. But this is going to really be hard. This is going to really be hard. And let me conclude and turn it over to Kamala, who says, what the hell am I doing with this guy right now? But all kidding aside, I've known you my whole life, most of you. I've worked with you my whole life, most of you. I've been around doing this for a long time. I don't always get it right, but I always take responsibility. When I get it wrong, I acknowledge I got it wrong. But my overarching objective, if we cannot make significant progress on racial equity, this country is doomed. It is doomed, not just because of African Americans, but because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. Hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do, in terms of raw numbers. We're going to have to...
Free for all at America's southern border. A group of migrants crossing into the U.S. were spotted wearing Biden, please let us in t-shirts. And while the White House refuses to call what is going on a crisis, a leaked memo says border agents are being overwhelmed. According to Axios, hundreds of unaccompanied minors are being taken into custody on a daily basis, and Border Patrol is struggling to deal with the skyrocketing number. Okay, I'll start with you first, Jesse. You know, it's kind of interesting that you've got all these people coming into the border with these Biden T-shirts. And the issue is, are these desperate asylum seekers, or is this part of a coordinated effort? And if they're desperately seeking asylum, where did they get the Biden T-shirts?
Yeah, I want to know who manufactured the T-shirts. Maybe I'll have an investigation on the weekend show. But I know this, Judge, the cartels are getting filthy rich. I'm beginning to think Hunter might be on the payroll. If you're a parent in Central America, you pay a coyote $5,000 to get your minor across the border. And once they're across, because of the amnesty promises and all of the other soft border policies, they bring back the chain migration, and then that whole family can come through. So if it's $5,000 a child, and they're expecting 117,000 child migrants to come across this year, that's $500 million in the pockets of the drug cartels. The drug cartels control Mexico. Obrador's not in charge. They're in charge. And now they're control of our southern border. You don't think everyone that comes across, adult or minor, owes something to those cartels? They know who their families are. And when they tell that illegal immigrant, once they get to Chicago or Long Island, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, they'll do it, or else they'll kill their family back home. Cartels own this country
All
at this
right.
point, and Joe Biden's letting them do it.
And here's a point or a question that I like to put out there. How are American citizens being treated by their government? And the answer is very poorly, very badly. Here's the proof.
When you become homeless, you kind of revert into this solitude. It's humiliating. I find especially the women, we don't say anything to anyone about it. My name is Judith, and I've been living in my car at 72 years old since the end of February. Good morning. I'd like a medium-sized black. Okay. I'm not always this sweet sounding either. It's a facade. It's the first thing I do when I get up and start my day. I go and get a cup of coffee. And then I head across the street to this cemetery and organize my car for the day. Now, St. Mary's Cemetery is a local place where a lot of homeless people come to. I've seen a woman my age who is currently living in the trees over here. I'm a working visual artist. I have been my whole life. Once a woman is single and aging, she has no safety net, none. For the last 5-6 years of my work life, even with my Social Security, I was not able to pay a rent with that combined income.
What were you doing?
I was working as a cashier at the Market Basket. It's not safe living like this when you're older. You have to drive everywhere you need to go. If I'm going to have something to eat, I have to go someplace to get food. If I need to use a bathroom, I have to get in the car and drive someplace. We're at my storage container, and this is where I had the movers bring all of my belongings. A lifetime of work and collecting, and this is it. I kept my drafting table, and I tried to keep it open because I was hoping that maybe I could work a little bit from here, but it's ridiculous, impossible. This is the cabinet where I keep a lot of my stored goods when I'm home. This is my son with his first tuna, and this is my children when they were little, and this is something my daughter made in school, and here's our family portrait. Bye, Steph. Here I am on the Rowley site at apartments.com, and there's one rental available, and it's for $3,500. My budget pushing it is $2,000. No one is moving anywhere because there's no place to move to. Just like crying all the time. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I don't know, I guess I expect more of myself. This is another adventure. I'm just too old for it anymore.
So you see, America needs to start taking care of their own. It is not the responsibility of America to provide work for people outside of America. It is not our responsibility to do this. The people who come in here, they are not asylum seekers. You see, because the purpose of asylum seeking is your life has to be in danger. Now, when I last checked, there are no more civil wars anywhere in Latin America. They, by their own admission, they're saying they're coming here because they want work. But that's not the responsibility of America, is to provide work for these people. And unfortunately, now you see the results of how black people, brown people, people of color, both African American and Latino, have become the pawns of the Democratic Party. So, what has to be done? They all have to eventually be sent back to their homes. Now, somebody might say, oh, Pastor, that's not godly. That's not love. But if you say that, you're wrong. In the book of Philemon, Paul wrote a letter in behalf of Onesimus. Onesimus stole from his master Philemon and fled to another land. And in that land, he met the Apostle Paul. And it was during the time that he met Paul that he became born again. He got saved. And he assisted Paul in his ministry. But notice what Paul told him to do. Paul told Onesimus, you have to go back home. And you have to own up to your crime. But Paul just didn't send Onesimus back. He sent Onesimus with a letter for Philemon, asking Philemon to forgive Onesimus for his crime. And if Onesimus owes Philemon anything, Paul said, lay it to his charge. So Onesimus went back home with that letter for Philemon. And biblical history teaches that Onesimus became a great bishop. So you see, what am I saying? Anybody here that is here illegally has to be sent back. Now that's biblical, and that's the right way. We can't award criminal action. People who are here illegally should not be given citizenship. They should not be given jobs. And no, they should never be given the right to vote. Now, I'm not against immigration, but there's a right way to do it. There are several people who have become citizens of this country by doing it the right way. There's a process. You apply for citizenship. You ask for citizenship. And you go through a process to become a citizen. And citizenship will be granted to you. But you got thousands of people who are seeking to become citizens of this country the right way, whose citizenship is going to be put on hold because all the illegal immigrants who are ahead of them. I mean, it's just foolish when you think that people are coming here and giving dates to appear in court that won't even be done for 5 and 10 years. It is ridiculous. And this is the plan of the Democratic Party. As you see, they want to bring all of these people in this country to give them citizenship and the right to vote. So this is not a humanitarian crisis. This is not a situation of people seeking asylum. But this is the plan of the Democratic Party to stay in power by creating an illegal voting bloc of people. So as Christians, as law-abiding citizens of the United States of America, we got to vote the Democrats out. This whole situation is totally insane and illegal. When you see the Democrats' plan is falling right before their face, they didn't think this out. And now they want to use schools to house illegals. Hotels that were not available to Americans sleeping on the streets, you make for illegals. This is not right. It's not fair. But we have the power to stop it with our vote. And I pray as Americans that we will have the boldness to say, enough is enough. Well, that concludes my video. God bless, and God bless America.